Hey, Frank here. Wanted to start doing some match analysis of my early blue belt matches, um, and then begin looking at even my match footage from white belt. This is mostly an exercise to critique my own matches, give myself some practice on looking at where I can improve, where I went wrong, things I could have done. Um, and also just like recording this and sharing it out to the public to help other people level up their jiu-jitsu game as well. Um, Hope you guys can pick up some pointers as I go through this match. This was early 2020, before the pandemic happened, at a NAGA in, I think it was San Jose. Um, I think this match, I lost the first minute of the footage. So it starts off in what looks like to be my guard almost getting past. So we can uh, jump straight into it. So it looks like I get half guard, and I attempt to throw my leg over my opponent's right arm. He steps out, and um, I begin to go into my open guard. Notice how, like, immediately when he steps back, I immediately grab his foot to keep my connection with him. And it looks like I'm going for a De La Hiva guard, but his knee is pointed. His knee is pointed in the direction that prevents me from doing that. So if I had been able to make his right knee point to his left, then I might have been able to get my hook in, extend my leg, and get his weight off me. But the way his knee was positioned towards towards his right hand side, it prevented me from getting the hook. I opt to sit up because my opponent was not pressuring into me. So anytime you can, claw some distance back, choosing that route is going to be a good idea. So I choose sit up guard, and you'll see here that I insert my left foot as an inside hook. And then right here, you'll see that I have that tricep grip with my left hand, and my right hand is over his arm. And that sort of is a 2-on-1 grip. Um, and this could be used to pull your opponent forward. But as you can see, it wasn't really working out because I wasn't off balancing my opponent. Um, and that kind of grip is strongest when your elbow is close to your ribs. So what I should have done is to keep my left elbow glued to my rib and then rock backwards with my entire body, keeping my left butterfly hook under my opponent in order to lift him up and pull him into my guard. So that's like one way you can generate off balancing with the grips and with the grips up top and also the inside foot position on the bottom. Obviously, I was not able to do that here. Um, Another option would have been to step my left foot out and turn the 2-on-1 grip into an arm drag. So my right hand would go under his armpit and pull him across to my right hand side. And then that would create some back exposure as well. I did none of these things. This was um, just a failed attempt on my part to take advantage of the grips that I had. Um, right after this, he'll stand up and pass my guard, so I'll let that play. I watched this footage several times to figure out how he was able to pass my guard. I did have left inside foot position on my left leg, and um, my knees. I was following him as kind of like my entire body was facing him and following him. And I think what happened was that he just moved too quickly, um, and he got past my hip line here, and by then my left leg was not flexible enough to retain the hook. And what happens here is that he is able to take up all of that inside space in between my elbow and my hip. Um, so he gets past my legs, and I'm unable to invert in that time. So he gets past my guard and settles in north-south. Um, Obviously, that sucks. That's the first 2 points that I lost in this match. But that's fine. So he ends up in north-south position, and he has inside control, meaning his elbows are inside of my elbows. Uh, and so my goal here is to start making space. So what I want to do is I want to get my belly button away from his head. You'll see here that I start pushing as hard as I can, and sort of scooting myself out. My teammate here in the bottom left hand corner, Justin. I think I do vividly recall him telling me to push up and out. And you can see I'm pushing my torso away from him, and what this allows me to do is, you see, I have that hip mobility where I'm swinging my legs around. So I'll continue bumping up and out, and eventually this will allow me to invert. Um, and if I did invert, then this would be one of the ways I could have retained my guard. Um, what my opponent wanted to do, or what he should have done if he saw me pushing out here, is to essentially do the opposite, climb back on me, and sink his head into my belly button. So every time I try to invert, he can use his head to bump my lower torso back down. Alternatively, he could also move towards my hips, and essentially drive his shoulder into my stomach as well, and that and bring his legs up in a tripod. That would also create a lot of pressure that is very difficult to get out of. In this case, I believe he moved to side control, and I was able to gain enough rotation with my left leg to grab his foot from the outside, um, to stop him from moving more and more to his left hand side to pass. So my left leg stopped him from passing, and that allowed me to sneak in my lockdown. A little bit hard to see here, but I have a lockdown on my opponent's right leg. Um, you'll see here that like I take my right arm and I try to bring it under my opponent's left leg. Um, and this is in order to get to like an electric chair position or deep half. The main problem that happened here was that I was not lifting my lockdown up and bringing my knees to my chest. And so essentially what I was doing was I'm essentially flattened on the ground. I'm unable to generate any momentum, really. And I wasn't bringing my knees to my chest, and therefore there's really no space for me to sort of scoot my upper body below my opponent. Um, so the knee curl, where I bring my knees up to my chest, um, and also in combination with my right arm, um, to get my underhook under my opponent's left leg, that needs to happen at the same time. Um, and if that did happen, that would allow me to get on my side. And on your side is where you're able to build your base, you're able to get underhooks, you're able to utilize deep half, etc. So I'm able to get on my right hand side, and you'll see right there I come up on my right hand side, and so I was thinking, great, I can get on my side. At this point, maybe I can hip escape out. But he puts the crossface on and flattens me out. And so, like, this is a very common half guard battle. Once I get on my side here, what I want to do is to use my left arm to get a deep underhook on my opponent's right side, which I obviously was not doing. I was um, framing. It looks like I was framing against his hip, so which was why he was still able to cross face me and bring me back down. I eventually let go of the lockdown, and right when I did that, my opponent sits up, and that allowed me to invert my right knee and retain a half guard. Um, Notice how I'm on my side, um, and I'm utilizing all my frames. So I have my right hand and my left hand both framing across my opponent. So I'm sort of preventing both of his shoulders from coming closer to me, and I have my left top knee in his hip. So this is preventing him from coming back to smash me. Um, the next step would have been to get my left hand, get an underhook, start to go into dogfight, do sweeps. Um, but I didn't. I do not believe I did that. Instead, I put my top leg um, on his shoulder, and I believe he drives forward, and in that transition, I'm able to lock up the beginnings of a triangle. Uh, yeah, I switch it. We can take a look at that again. So his right arm comes above, and he tries to do a double leg pass on me. Um, and I think I was able to loop one arm in, which was his right arm, and begin to lock up a triangle here. So this is what I would call a trap triangle, which is a one arm in, one arm out situation, but I don't have it completely locked in. So my opponent's right arm is in, and my right leg is the leg that is up against my opponent's carotid artery. It doesn't look very tight at all here. You'll see that my left leg is a little low, and instead I have opted to use my left hand on my shin to sort of close the loop on the triangle so my opponent can't posture out while I dig my right arm under my opponent's left leg. And this allows me to establish an angle. And you'll see like here I have somewhat of like a 45-degree angle to my opponent. Um, but I'm not able to lock up the triangle completely. You can see my right foot is close to my left calf. Um, he neutralizes the angle. I think I tried to turn it into an armbar, but at that point the triangle was not tight enough. And he eventually gets out and turns it into close guard. So if we go back, another thing that I wanted to mention here was when I established this angle right here, like I had the underhooked leg and the beginnings of what could have been a tighter triangle. I could have used the angle here to my advantage and used the strength of my legs against my opponent's upper body and maybe expanded my body and sweep my opponent over to his right hand side. Um, you can see that because I have his triangle arm, his right arm inside the triangle, um, there's really nothing except his right leg that could potentially base if I um, swept him over that way. So that was one way that I could potentially get up on top. I could have used that angle to my advantage, but I fucked it up. Was thinking too hard for the sub, and he got out. Um, so we end up in close guard. When I'm on bottom close guard, the main thing I want to think about is continually breaking my opponent's posture down, because when my opponent is in top close guard, he basically can't really do anything from there. He doesn't have any kind of solid offensive tactics. If I were in closed guard on top, my main goal would be to stand up and to get out. You can see here that both of us weren't really doing much. Um, he should not have been pushing me down because that gives me an opportunity to break his posture down and hold him. And then for myself, I needed to pull my knees to my chest. You can see here I'm just trying for this like armbar 2-on-1 grip, but his base is very, very stable, and I'm not doing enough to make him post his hands on the mat. Um, so both of us weren't really doing the right thing here. I could have been more effective. He should have been trying to back out, step up and back out. So a little bit of a grip exchange here, but I eventually sit up to try and get a hip bump sweep. And the main reason why the hip bump sweep works here is I get my hips higher than his, and I bump him over. He obviously posts to prevent from falling over, and I end up on bottom again. But there are some points here that I think we should go over. I bump here, and here is a golden opportunity where he posts out, and my left leg, you can see on the top of his back, I have an opportunity to swing that leg high up onto him while keeping my left arm in a collar tie on his shoulder. And that allows me to hang off of my opponent. And my right leg, therefore, is free to swing around and potentially get a triangle. So that's one way you could do it. Because I fell back down, there are also options to go for the Kimura on my opponent's left hand, or a guillotine using my right arm as well. None of those options I actually executed in this match. I fell down, and here in this split second, there's also an opportunity because I have a slight angle on my opponent. You can see how like I'm beginning to angle out to the right hand side of my opponent, and if you're looking at the video, it's to the left. 10 Planet players can probably do rubber guard here in this instance, so I would throw my left leg all the way up and use my right arm to begin rubber guard. In this case, I did try and immediately go to the other side to try and sweep them. A little bit of a failed triangle attempt, and we're back in closed guard. Same gig here. He needs to start getting out. I need to start breaking his posture and getting an angle. I was not doing a very good job. I was probably gassing out a little bit. So right there could have been like a guillotine attempt. So I'd sit up for the hip bump sweep. He'd block it, and then my left arm would loop in on the guillotine, but I think I was a little bit too close for that. So a more crappy close guard from both of us. He eventually uses his elbows to push out, and he breaks my grip, or it breaks out of my close guard. So right here, he's beginning to pass, and I'm sort of like halfway inverting, using my left arm, framing into him. It should have been framing harder into him. It seems like it's sort of in the air right now. And I take this opportunity to throw my left leg in between my opponent's legs. And this sort of sets it up to possibly go into inside Senkaku. So right here, you can see that my left leg is in between my opponent's legs, and ideally I would have wanted to take my right leg and loop it behind my opponent's right leg in order to lock up a triangle. Um, and that would give me Insight Senkaku, Saddle 411, and then you have a variety of attacks from there. I think looking at it now, I think my left leg was a little bit too deep. I don't really want my knee line to be that deep. Um, so in order for the saddle to have worked a little better, I think the left leg could have been a little bit more shallow. So here, like if I was able to lock up that triangle, then I could have fallen back. I could have rolled forward and ended up on top with a saddle locked in. All of which are great options for passing and also attacking. Unfortunately, I was unable to do that in this match. He ended up uh, sprawling and smashing down, and I let it all go. So here's another something I've been working on in the past year, which was right here when we disengaged. There's this 3 to 4 second period of time where I could have came up into at least sit up guard. Best case scenario, maybe a technical stand up, and then back into the standing position. And that puts me into a better position to, take down for 2 points, or a stronger, sit up position to do sweeps instead of just falling back into my guard and working off my back. Depending on like what kind of game you want to play, there's never any reason, unless you want to give up that much distance on your opponent. Um, I was lucky that this was just a jiu-jitsu match. If this was MMA, I probably would have gotten my face smashed in. So, um, yeah, so let's keep going. There's only about 20 seconds left in the match. So this was a little interesting thing that I do. So I was in half guard, or I think this is kind of more like Z guard with a shield in. Um, I loop my left leg into the inside of my opponent's right arm, and then I grab his tricep with my left arm, right there. And you can see on my right hand side, my opponent's left hand side, I'm grabbing his wrist, and if I'm able to, that means I have a grip on my opponent's right hand side of the body. So you can see where my foot and my arm end is on the right hand side of my opponent. I can um, sweep him over to my right hand side, so to my opponent's left hand side. Um, you can see this failed because my opponent pulled his left hand outside of my grip, and he was able to base right there. Um, and that nullified the sweep. Um, Keeping my legs in front of me. Right here, there could have been an opportunity for an arm drag again to my right hand side since my leg was out. Um, I think he sat back, and so I decided to go straight for my shin on shin guard. But the timing was off, and what I needed to do was to punch my left leg through um, and get my left leg on his hip. But also he threw his weight back and to the left hand side, so it kind of like he was moving away from my shin. That put me on bottom again. 5 seconds left. Half guard lockdown again, and the match is over. I lost by those 2 points, but throughout the match, I was talking about like the many opportunities that I had to come up, to sweep, to use my submission options to sweep. Um, so a lot of lessons that to practice and also to learn in this match. Um, I really enjoyed breaking this match down. I think when you really slow it down and look at it, there's a lot of things you can improve on. Hopefully, it helped you as well, and I look forward to doing more of these.